A continuación quiero presentarles a nuestra conferencista magistral de esta mañana, María Matarelli, cofundadora de la Academia de Marketing Ágil y el Instituto de Agilidad Personal. María capacita a las empresas para alcanzar la verdadera agilidad. Dedica parte de su tiempo a viajar para dar asesoría a las organizaciones y participar en conferencias de la industria por todo el mundo. Con su equipo, han estado aplicando Agile en las áreas de marketing con resultados increíbles, lo que la llevó a cofundar la Academia de Marketing Ágil y el Instituto de Agilidad Personal. También es la fundadora y presidenta de Fórmula Inc., una empresa de consultoría internacional. Los invito a que disfruten la charla.
Hi everyone, Maria Matarelli here, and I am excited to talk to you about the Agile Advantage today. You may be familiar with the concept of Agile and how it's being applied in many different ways. Most often, it's known for software development. It's now being expanded into many other areas, from marketing to hardware to infrastructure to so many different applications, even people using Agile to do more of what really matters in their life, what we call personal agility. And today what I want to do is I want to break down some of these concepts on when we're looking at Agile, what does that mean with the mindset, and how can you get the Agile advantage in your organization? The most commonly used Agile approach is the Scrum framework, and the tagline is how to do twice the work in half the time. And anytime I tell people about that, they always say, oh, I need that, because who doesn't want to get more work done in less time? But it's not just about going faster. It's about working on the right things and making sure that we're doing the right stuff and we're actually having delighted customers at the end of the day, that our people are engaged in what we're doing, that the work is meaningful, that we have the results and the outcome that we wanted. So let's go ahead and explore the applications of Agile in some different ways and how you can begin to apply more Agile in the way that you work to get more of that Agile advantage in your organization. So let's start by talking about Agile in development, which is what many people are most familiar with. And when we talk about Agile in development, usually people are wanting to increase the speed to market. How can we get to market faster? How can we make sure we have the right product, the right features? How can we make sure that our customers are satisfied? There was an article in Forbes, and they talk about the difference from a traditional project management approach to using Agile. And when you look at the degree of business success over time, if you have your original plan today and we do a traditional waterfall plan, we're guessing at where we'll be a year from now. Or if your project is 2 years away, we're not sure exactly what's going to happen in that second year. So we give our best guess when we plan all of the work up front. Now, when we're using an Agile approach, we're still going to plan, but we're only going to plan for a short increment right now, and then we're going to replan, and we're going to inspect and adapt, and we're going to iterate. And by doing this, we can actually get much further with an Agile plan because we are constantly ready to adapt to any changes in the market and anything happening, and making sure that we have the best quality product, and we're constantly improving how we work together as a team. Now, in 2020, we've seen quite a bit of disruption in the industry, and I almost guarantee you that no plans from January 1st have survived till today, 10 months later. And when you start to look at all of these different factors that are out there in the market, in the world, right? A global pandemic just knocked everyone off course. When you are Agile, then you can pivot and you can move faster because that's how we work. That's our natural way of working. That's a mindset as well, being able to inspect, adapt, and pivot as needed. So let's talk about Agile. In its most basic form, I'd like to tell you a story of a friend of mine named James, who I ran into a few years ago. Now, we had been friends back when I was in high school and college, and we'd stay connected online over the years. And I ran into him at a coffee shop. I was like, hey man, how's it going? And we're catching up. And he said, I've got a question for you. I see you talking at all these events and conferences all over the world. What is it that you're talking about? I was like, oh, I'm probably talking about Agile. That's what I do to consult people on how to be more efficient in how they work, how to get results quicker, how to be able to be more flexible and adaptable. And as we were talking about this, he pulled out this photo that had a beautiful poem written on a coffee cup. And he said, "Could you Agile this?" And I looked at it for a second. I was like, all right, give me a minute. What do you mean? Tell me more. And he told me that one day he was sitting in the coffee shop and he couldn't find a piece of paper to write on, but he had a pen and he had the thought of a beautiful poem and he didn't want to lose it. He didn't want to forget it. So the thing he did is he grabbed the closest thing to him, which was the coffee cup, and he started writing on it. And he looked at this coffee cup and he was like, well, that actually looks kind of cool. So the next day, he's sitting in the coffee shop and he thought of another poem. And this time he did have something to write on, but he chose to write on the coffee cup again. And so he started doing this, started posting the pictures online and getting positive feedback. And so people were saying it was cool. They thought it was a great idea. But he said to me, Maria, I've got to tell you, I've got like 70 coffee cups at home with poems written on them. And I don't know what to do with them, but I feel like there's something here. So can you use Agile to do something with this? I said, all right, let me give it a few more minutes thought. And I asked him, all right, what kind of budget do you have? Let's build a website. So what we did is we secured the domain writingoncoffee.com. And we put together this website in 1 week. And on this website, you could see a bunch of the different poems that he'd written on coffee cups. And we had a store. So people could actually go to the store, click on Shop Now, and there you could custom mix and match the different poems on the coffee cups with different merchandise that it would be printed on. So the whole idea behind Agile in its most simplest form is to have a minimum viable product, something that could be released. So here you could go online to writingoncoffee.com and you could mix and match to pick a custom poem. And you could print a photo that was framed, the pillow, the t-shirt. My personal favorite is the mug on the mug, ladies t-shirt or bag. So within 1 week, we were able to put something out there where people could potentially buy the product. Now, interestingly enough, once you do that, that's the simplest thing that could possibly work. We're not done here. Now we want to iterate upon that. So our profit margin actually was not very good on our first iteration. The first time that we launched, it was a very small profit margin because we didn't want to mark up the price for the end customer too much. And we were using a print on demand service so we could print one item at a time. But to do that, it was pretty expensive for that service to integrate with the website. But it was super simple to connect with our website and have everything up and running really quickly. So we sacrificed the profit margin for speed. But now here's what's interesting. Now that we finished that first iteration, now we can look at optimizing the price point. We can find a better distributor. We can find a better print-on-demand service. Now we can look at enhancing that to become more profitable. But our first mission of that first iteration was to have a minimum viable product where someone could actually purchase the product so we could see if anyone even wanted this in the first place, right? So what we did there is we took 1 week to vet, is this even a good idea? Is this something our customers want? That's Agile in its most simplest form. Pick a time box, do the work, get something to market, and then reflect and improve and iterate from there. So when people talk about Agile in an organization, I feel like often we make it way more complex than it needs to be. Now, in a larger organization, we definitely have many layers of people and complexity and lots of initiatives, a lot of times all happening at the same time. So what I'd like to encourage you to do is think about ways that you can leverage the Agile mindset more in how you work. And that's in just looking at the work differently. It's looking at what's that minimal increment that we can release. It's looking at what's the simplest thing that could possibly work, and then how can we iterate upon on top of that. So when we look at Agile, it doesn't need to be something super complicated. It's actually a lot more simpler than we might think. When we look at the traditional approach, you may be familiar with the phases of getting all requirements, then going into design phase, then development, testing, and implementation. And this is the traditional waterfall project management approach. Now we call it waterfall because it's a phase. You have to finish one phase before going to the next. So if there was water trickling down these phases, it would simply flow down like a waterfall. Now, the challenge with this is that we don't deliver till the very end. Now, if you're looking at, let's say we're launching a website, we want to get a website launched to market, we have to wait until everything is done until we go live. That could take 5, 6, 7 months. Sometimes I've seen website projects last more than a year. Now that's challenging to not have that online presence that whole time. So with an agile approach, we're still going to go through this cycle, but we're going to do it in an iterative manner. We're going to go through requirements, design, development, testing, and implementation, but we're just going to do that starting with the homepage. Now let's launch that homepage, and we can have that homepage of the website live in just a couple of weeks. Okay, now let's go through that second iteration. Requirements, design, development, testing, implementation. And now let's launch the services page. Now, maybe in that third iteration, we start to build the back-end database. Now that sounds complex, but we don't need to wait till the database is done in order to launch the homepage to market. That's what Agile's all about. How can we get something to market faster, and then we can get real feedback? First of all, we're delivering value sooner, and then we can get real feedback from our customer base if this is the right stuff. And if not, we can always enhance or add additional features in the next iteration. What this allows us to do is this allows us to have real empirical evidence of what's working and what the real feedback is in the marketplace. Now, there's a lot of companies that are starting to use Agile in development. Agile's been very well used and well known in the software development space, but Agile's being applied in so many ways beyond just that. In fact, marketing is one of the areas that we're seeing amazing results with Agile being applied. So if your company is more Agile and you're Agile in development and you're starting to work in that way and get products to market faster, that's great. But what happens if you go into a traditional marketing campaign and marketing cycle? Well, I can tell you what happens because we work with those companies. There was a company I was working with 2 years ago, and they were in Lisbon, Portugal, one of the largest insurance companies in Lisbon. They had been around for about 200 years and had about 40% of the market share. Now, one of the biggest challenges that they had was the way that they worked. They were slow to get their marketing campaigns out. In fact, as I was working with their marketing teams, what we found out as we were planning out their next marketing campaigns is that they would take around 3 to 4 months in their plan to launch to market. Now, 3 to 4 months, does that seem long to anyone? When you think about 3 to 4 months, that's a quarter of a year. So now our product is developed, but it's going to take a quarter of a year for us to actually promote that to the end user, because they wanted to get all the campaigns just right, and they had the whole process that they traditionally used. Now, there's been a big trend in the industry talking about business agility over the last 3 to 4 years. Now, to have true business agility, you might need to be Agile in more departments other than just IT. If you're just Agile in your development work, then you're not going to get the full benefit. So what we really want to see is we want to see that iterative cycle between developing our product and actually launching it to market and marketing it. And that's going to help us achieve more of that business agility. And that's going to be what gives us the Agile advantage in our industry and in our market. Because it's all about being able to respond to change. It's about being able to get something to market quickly, get real feedback, have the empirical data on what's working and what's not working, and iterating from there. Now, Agile in marketing is a very, very powerful approach, because if you're using Agile in development and you get something launched to market a little bit quicker, that's great. If you have better features and higher quality, that's also great. But what's really cool about marketing is that money is tied to the marketing. When it works, you actually see more dollars come in, and that can be exponential growth. So I'd like to share with you what some of the things are that we've discovered as far as Agile applied to marketing and some of the incredible results that we have seen in the industry. And this is really where it all began. I met a guy in Chicago, Nick Cementa, and I brought him on to help me with doing business development for my company, Formula Inc., where we do Agile coaching and training and helping people understand how to start to apply these techniques at their companies. I was like, Nick, we need you to come and attend one of our certified Scrum Master classes, because that's primarily what we have the most requests for. So if you're going to help us with the marketing, it'd be great for you to understand fully what it is that we do. And I remember when Nick walked out of that training class, he asked me this question. He said, could you apply this to marketing? And I was like, of course you could. You could apply Agile to anything. It works. It's a methodology. There's frameworks. Like, it applies in multiple different types of industries, different applications. Yes, it would apply to marketing. So what happened next is we started experimenting. And we started experimenting and getting amazing results. As we started getting amazing results, we put that curriculum together into a 2-day format of a certified Agile marketing specialist course. And this is the course that we've been leading around the world over the last several years. And what we're seeing is that these techniques, they work regardless of geographic location, regardless of industry. These techniques apply and they can get amazing results. So where it all began is we had a client and this was their monthly revenue. Now, if you're looking at this, my question is this good? What do you think? Is this good for their growth if you look at what they're doing? Well, there was an initial increase in revenue, and then it kind of went up and down a little bit, but it's trending upward. So when you look at this, people might say, yeah, it's pretty good, but maybe it could be better. Now, if we start to actually look at the context of this, some people say, I need more information. Well, this was over the course of 1 year. Now, when they did their initial product launch, they had some good sales, but it didn't really truly connect with the client base in a way that was bringing the type of growth that you would want to see over time. Would this kind of revenue be okay for a year? Maybe. What about 2 years? What about in 3 years? Is that okay? Is that growth enough? Or actually, maybe that's just stagnant at that point. Now, let's look at different things happening in the marketplace. Let's look at having to shift or make changes. Can they survive those types of changes? It's pretty stable. So if something goes wrong, does that tank the business? So when we start to look at what is possible, a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. We don't even know how much better it could be. And I found that I had the same experience earlier this year as we were running some online marketing campaigns for the training that we do. As you look at the complete shift in the world this year, everything has been changed. All travel stopped when the pandemic hit. We're looking at our business model was to go on site with clients to do in-person training, on-site coaching. All of that stopped. So we had to pivot, and we had to pivot fast. So we converted all of our training to virtual, online, live instructor-led training. Now, in order to do that, we had to market differently than we did before. We were marketing more B2C than B2B, having individuals attend public virtual training classes rather than more private classes, which we've done in the past. Now, we still do both, but interestingly enough, we had to do something different. And what's interesting is that instead of becoming more cautious with the changes that were happening in the world, we actually increased our ad spend in our budget. And we're able to bring in more year to date in public training class revenue than we did in all of last year by June. So halfway through the year, we brought in more than we had the entire last year. Now, why is that? Well, it's because being able to be agile and adaptable and flexible, it works. And sometimes you don't even know what you're capable until you make those changes. And this is what happened with this client that we were working with. Within 6 months, we had over 300% increased revenue. And within 1 year, we had over 780% increased revenue. And I remember turning to Nick and I was like, Nick, what did you do to get these amazing results? And he's like, I just did the agile stuff that you taught me. I was like, okay, but what part of the agile stuff that I taught you? Because I don't think this is normal. Like, companies have not been applying agile in marketing this way. This is incredible. And so what we did is we launched a case study program, and we started to invite companies from a variety of different industries to go through this case study program and apply the same techniques to see if they were repeatable. And the first person that joined this program, they invested $5,000, and the return that they got was $30,000 on their first agile marketing campaign. And when I saw that, I was blown away again. I was like, okay, all right, we need to really hone in on what's getting these results. And so that's what is now the curriculum today in the Certified Agile Marketing Specialist course. And what we're realizing is that Agile is a set of practices and, you've got the methodologies or frameworks, but it's also a mindset. And the mindset is so very important. And when we look at the larger organizations, we have so much complexity that's built in. When we scaled these businesses, we had to have some processes and systems to scale. But the challenge that comes in is that now things have gotten so heavily overloaded with process that a lot of times we're doing things that don't really make sense. In fact, sometimes when we do Agile training, we talk about the concept of unlearning. It's like an untraining of all the things that you have to do in order to make sure everything happens properly. We want to look more at, can we have the Agile mindset? Can we inspect and adapt? Can we make changes as needed? Can we look at learning when we fail? Is that learning, or is that like the worst thing in the world? And maybe failing actually means we learn something faster. And if we can adapt from that, maybe that's okay. Maybe there's a culture shift that might need to happen. So it goes deeper than just following the motions. It is a mindset. But these are the results that are possible when you apply Agile in how you work. So I want to tell you a little bit more about how we got this amazing increase in revenue for this company. What we did is we started to run some marketing campaigns. And as we did that, we found that we had 5 different ads that we were launching. And so we wrote user stories for each of the different target audiences. And what the company had been doing to this point is they had been essentially just offering a free sample. Sign up. This is a company that they sold acid-free coffee. So here's a free sample. If you sign up to get our acid-free coffee, it's going to be healthier for you. You can have it automatically delivered on subscription to your door every month. So you get it right at home. You don't have to go shopping. Try a free sample and see if you like it. Now, that sounds like that would work, right? Like a free sample, that's a really, really great strategy. But the thing that we were seeing is that people, they weren't actually, I mean, some people were signing up, but not everybody was. And so as you look at that, we were getting some sales, but there was so much more than we were capable of doing that wasn't really happening. Well, let's actually split test some other campaigns. So we ran 5 campaigns to targeting different people and types of people. So we were like thinking, who truly needs this product? When you look at who really needs acid-free coffee, is it just people that might consider switching? Or is it people that maybe actually have a real physical need? With acid-free coffee, you could say, hey, do you want to be healthier? And we might have more people that join and that sign up. But what we thought about is, what if we split test people with different physical ailments? So we looked at people that had Crohn's, colitis, ulcers, pylori, and then we split test that against a free sample. So my question to you is, where would you put your marketing dollars if this is what the response looked like? Well, that third campaign is looking pretty good right there. In fact, it's over 600% more response than anything else that we ran in our marketing test. And that's people with ulcers. So apparently, there's a lot of people out there that work in high stress jobs. Maybe they are at a very leadership position in their company. Maybe they're an entrepreneur or business owner. Maybe it's someone who is just really stressed and overworked, someone in a sales position trying to meet quota. And a lot of these people have developed ulcers. So they're in physical pain every day. Now, the challenge is that coffee, does anyone here like coffee? Have you ever drank coffee? Has anyone here drank coffee and stopped drinking coffee? Because the way I hear it is that people start drinking coffee and it's coffee for life, right? Like you need that cup of coffee every day. You want it, you need it in the morning, want it in the afternoon. And I hear it's pretty intense. I personally, I'm not big on coffee, never really got the taste of it. I do like coffee flavored ice cream though, that's delicious. But when you look at drinking coffee, people want the coffee every day. They've conditioned themselves that helps them wake up. So when these people would start to get ulcers, they would be in physical pain and they would drink the coffee still and have physical pain from the acid in the coffee upsetting their stomach, and they would still do it. And we've led so many agile marketing training classes or given presentations where we use this example. And I ask people in the room about if they drink coffee. And I have had several people where they're like, you know what? I actually drink coffee. I am in pain when I drink coffee, but I still drink it. And it's like, well, why? And they're like, because I have to have it. I feel like I need it to get through my day. So here's the question. If this product is acid-free coffee and people are in pain, but they still want to drink coffee, how much easier is that sell? When we are truly connecting the right message to market match and connecting with the people that truly need the product rather than just people that we think might buy the product. See how much more aligned that is? Yeah. So we actually ran into a period of time where we had to pause our ads. And you might be wondering, like, why was that? Why would we pause the ads when we're getting such an amazing return on the sales? And the reason is that we actually kept running out of inventory. So that's what I consider a luxury problem. If we keep running out of inventory, well, that's a problem that most people would want to have. Okay, now we need to help get the business and the development streamlined and smooth and back on track. And then we can resume the ads from there. So it's absolutely incredible to see what's possible when you really just apply Agile to how you work. And so there's so many different things that you can do to get these results. We're finding that a lot of companies have some common marketing challenges. And so I ask, in all the companies that we work with, I ask them, what are your biggest marketing challenges? I ask people this all the time. And the answers that we get often seem to roll up to two main things. First, it's when you don't have the right message to market match that there's a problem. You have a great product, there's customers out there, but you're not truly connecting with them on what the value is and what that means for them. And then also, secondly, we're finding that a lot of companies have campaign cycles that run way too long without enhancing them, without reviewing them, without seeing if they work. There's a company that we were working with a few years ago, and they're based out of New York City here in the States. And we were asking them how they currently did marketing. And they said they had a budget for TV, radio, print ads, and they did some online marketing. We said, okay, great. What are your budgets for these different areas? And what's the return that you're getting? And what's the cost of customer acquisition? And would you believe that they didn't have the answer to that? Even on their radio advertising, they were paying $14,000 US just on radio. Now let's double that and let's carve out the TV budget. Now let's carve out the budget for the print media and the budget for online. And we're probably close to $30,000, $40,000 a month. I mean, it was absurd to think about the fact that they weren't tracking where any of their leads were coming from. And for every dollar spent on marketing, they could not tell how many dollars they had to spend to figure out what was the actual cost to acquire a customer. Now, interestingly enough, the larger the company, the larger these challenges can be. The last in-person class that we led earlier this year, we're working with a company up in the northern part of the United States. So I was with their teams in Boston, and I flew in to work with their teams in Minneapolis. And as I was talking with them about these concepts of agile marketing, they asked a question and they said, how are we supposed to inspect and adapt when we don't actually see the results of the campaigns? We're the creative team. And so we create the marketing materials, but there's another department that gives us the direction on what they want us to create and how they want us to revise any of the marketing collateral. And there's another team that actually runs the ads, and we don't actually hear which ads were successful and which ones were not. And I was like, okay, let me think about that for a moment. That would make it very hard, very challenging. In fact, I don't know how you would know unless the departments need to start talking to each other, right? So if the people that are creating the marketing content are being told by another internal department what to create, there's a different internal department that actually runs the campaigns, and nobody's actually telling the creative people what's successful or not. I mean, we're all working in silos in our departments. Well, that's not the most effective. So how are we going to tell if the campaign cycles are running properly? We're not split testing. We're not making the changes. And this is something that we hear time and time again. Hey, we're getting some sales, so we don't really look into it, right? Just like with the original coffee sales. Yeah, we could stay at this level for 2 to 3 years, I'm sure, but we aren't even aware of the growth that we're missing out on. There's so much more possibility that we might not even be aware of. So enhancing that message to market match to make sure that we're getting as many people and the right customers is really important. And then checking in with those campaign cycles, making sure they don't run too long without us checking. Some of our marketing guys, they'll kill an ad in a day or two. If we run 5 different ads and 2 are not performing, we'll stop running the ad budget to that. We'll increase the ad spend on the ones that we're already getting a response from. That's going to get us a much better return. But we need to be thinking and working in an agile way for that to work. So when we talk about these 2 challenges, we can actually break the agile marketing approach down into two different categories here. We've got the discovery and we've got the delivery. So in the discovery, we go through 15 crucial questions to really dig deeply into what's the problem that we're trying to solve and what's the value of the solution. Now, when we talk about the problem that we're trying to solve, now we've done this training class around the world across many different countries, and every single time people come back and they say, here's the problem we're trying to solve, and they're listing a benefit of the solution. And what that means is if we're stuck on the benefits of what we're offering in our product, then we're not getting deep enough to really connect with the pain of our customer and why they really need the product. So we often ask 2 or 3 times, no, let's go deeper. What's the real problem? What's the problem that we can solve that would make, what could we do that where our solution would make those problems go away? What's the target here? So as we go through and we look at the problems that we're trying to solve, and then we can connect to the value of our solution, we use the user story format to get very clear on who we're targeting. In Agile, the user story format is as a who, I need what, so that why. So as a who, our target audience, what are they hoping to get? What's the feature that's going to stand out to them? And why do they need it? Why is it important to them so that their problems go away? And so when we can really get specific on the who, the what, and the why, we can actually run our split test off of that. And for this, we have to be very clear on our personas. And we can incorporate the problems we're trying to solve and the value of our solution into creating our Agile sales letter and getting very clear on walking through the pain of the problem, the value of the solution, how we can connect to that ideal persona. And that's going to help with the message to market match. And that's going to help us increase our sales more than ever before. Then with the delivery of the Agile marketing campaign, we can build a visual funnel. A big theme in Agile is making things visible. We could use an approach like Scrum, like the Scrum framework, or Kanban, which is more of a flow-based approach, where Scrum is a time box approach. You can use either in your execution. We can create visibility with the product backlog of what it is that we are going to do for the marketing campaign, have visualization in a task board, and focus on the MVC, which is the minimum viable campaign that we need to run. So by using an Agile approach in our delivery, this can help us have shorter campaign cycles, and we can validate that we're spending our marketing dollars in the right place by using a rapid iteration approach. We don't need to let a campaign run for weeks or months and then look back and say, is that effective or not? We can start to look at that on a daily and weekly basis, and then we can adjust and adapt and make tweaks to it to adjust to make sure that we're getting the right results. So when we look at Agile, we want to establish short work cycles. We want to have the minimum viable product. And we want to visualize the workflow so that we can make sure that we're getting the results that we want. So here's the Agile marketing framework. The Agile marketing framework is built on the heart of Agile. And the heart of Agile was created by Alistair Coburn, who is one of the original authors of the Agile Manifesto that was written back in 2001. Back in 2001, there was a group of software developers that came together and they said there has to be a better way to work. And so they wrote this manifesto about the things that they value. They wrote 4 values and 12 principles. And they said there's a better way of working and we're uncovering that. And here's the things we've come to value. Now, years later, looking out in the industry, Agile has picking up a lot of speed. And in fact, there's a lot of scaling frameworks out in the industry. But now the challenge is people are trying to scale before they actually get in a groove with delivering in an incremental fashion. It's like running before you walk, the cart before the horse. So what are you trying to scale if you're not even delivering every 2 weeks? That's a great question that I heard from Ron Jeffries and Chet Hendrickson a couple of years ago at a conference. And they were talking about it, the Agile Alliance event. They were saying everyone's trying to scale, but they never got the basics down. So we're now just scaling sloppy Scrum, right? We're doing something that it's not, we're going faster, but we're not necessarily getting the results because we're not doing things the right way. So when we look at the Heart of Agile framework, Alistair Coburn came out and he said, let's get back to the heart of Agile and what it's really about. And what you don't need a bunch of complex scaling frameworks. What you need is simply 4 things: to collaborate, deliver, reflect, and improve. And this fits in with our Agile marketing approach. So we want to collaborate on what are some of the campaigns we can run. Let's split test against these user stories. Deliver the funnel system with targeted campaigns. Reflect by actually reviewing the data, knowing how we're going to track it, reviewing the data, and then split testing to improve. Now we're going to make small changes to enhance what it is that we put out there. And as we go through this cycle, this is how you can start to get better results with your marketing, and you can start to actually increase your revenue coming in quickly by using an Agile marketing approach. We don't need to wait 3 to 4 months to get our first marketing campaign launched. This insurance company I was working with in Portugal, what happened was we ended up revamping and replanning to create minimum viable campaigns. And after we did that, we built our visual funnels, had Post-it notes up on the wall and said, okay, what could we do in a shorter time frame? And we went from 3 to 4 months down to 1 to 2 weeks on average. So now we could put out a minimum viable campaign in 2 weeks, and we could collaborate, deliver, reflect, and improve through that. Okay, what results did we get from the first 2 weeks? What adjustments are we going to make? Let's improve the campaign. Let's launch it again. So it's all about that iterative approach and the mindset of it not having to be perfect the first time, because we're going to learn from our real audience. And that's the power when you start to apply Agile in marketing. So the heart of Agile is something that you can apply in anything. When you're looking at an Agile approach in development and marketing and anything that you do, you can apply the heart of Agile. Collaborate to deliver, reflect to improve. And it can be as simple as that. So if you want the Agile advantage in your organization, I'd like to encourage you to not overcomplicate it and look at simple ways that you can begin to do this. And it all starts with the minimum viable product, then to iterate upon that from there. In marketing, we call that the minimum viable campaign. It's having something that works. I love this description here of an entrepreneur, someone who jumps off a cliff and builds a plane on the way down. Now that might be a little scary for some to think about, jumping off a cliff like that, especially in business. Can we start a project without knowing everything about it? Well, in an Agile way, yes, you can. And what that's going to allow us to do is get the results that we saw in that Forbes campaign, that Forbes article that we looked at, where they're saying, if you use a traditional approach, you have today's view. But if you use an Agile approach, you can go further because you're taking smaller steps and you're improving every single time. So with Agile, we want to increase our throughput. We want to limit our work in progress. Now, for these large companies, we want to limit the initiatives in progress. Do you want 40 projects that are partially done, or do you want 5 that are completed with excellence? Limit your focus and visualize the roadblocks. Visibility comes into play for accountability in reflecting reality of what's really happening. So when you can visualize the work, we start with a simple task board to do in progress done. And as we're able to do that, once we can see the work, now we can start to actually be more effective in how we work. We can increase our throughput. We can work more effectively because we have that visibility. So we can move stuff from to do to in progress and then over to done. And having that visualization can help. Now, we also want to use the 80-20 rule. Time and time again, the 80-20 principle works. Even if you just look at these are references from Wikipedia. There's 20% of the richest people in the world have 80% of the income. 80% of problems can be attributed to 20% of their causes. 80% of a company's profits come from 20% of their customers. 80% of their complaints come from 20% of the customers. 80% of a company's sales come from 20% of their products. If we actually took the time to stop and reflect on where our results are coming from, if we apply the 80-20 rule and start to look at being more effective, well, what if we focused on doubling down on the 20% of our products that brought in 80% of our sales? 80% of a company's profits come from 20% of the time their staff spends. Okay, what if we focused on optimizing the people's performance? What if we focused on that? So we can actually get amazing results the more that you can visualize what's happening and even the roadblocks. If you can visualize roadblocks, you can increase your throughput and get projects done faster. That's one of the ways you can get the Agile Advantage, is by just visualization and iterations. And so we don't need to overcomplicate it. We need to look at what's the simplest thing that could possibly work. And just by visualizations and communication of streamlining processes and roadblock removal, there's some groups that are out there, they are actually able to iterate jets in less than 6 months. In fact, I've heard in less than a month, they're iterating jets like that fly really fast. Like, that's really complex in my mind. But we're looking at even just software development application, we can iterate much faster with that as well. So I want to wrap up by talking about personal agility and the concept of applying Agile to do more of what matters. Because when you think about the people that come in and work at your company every day, how much stress do people have outside of work? People are only at work like 8 hours. That's like a third of the day. There's 2/3 of every day that people have other things going on. If you want a higher performing team, what if you had higher performing people? What if you had people that were happier and more engaged that came into your company? We've been exploring with the concept of personal agility and practitioners around the world over the last 4 years, and the feedback that we're getting is absolutely incredible. Now, I'm curious if any of these things sound familiar to you. Having too much work to do but not enough time, putting off things that you say are important but don't quite get to, having too many interruptions to be able to finish anything, saying yes to too many things, or things taking longer than you thought and promised. Does any of that sound familiar to you? It definitely sounds familiar to me. And like, we cannot risk saying no to anything that comes across our plate, because if we say no, well, what could happen? Something bad might happen. But the problem with that is that we don't have enough time to do everything. Our capacity is smaller than the never-ending list of things to do as an individual and at work, right? There's always a list of more things to do. So if we have a limited amount of time, well, what we can do is we need to be able to look at, can we invest our time better? And if we look at the stuff that matters versus the stuff that doesn't matter, and the waste, that the time that is stuff that we do but isn't the best use of our time, we don't want to put our capacity to that. We want to choose the stuff that matters, right? So if we say yes to what matters, that guides us to say no to the stuff that doesn't matter. In fact, let's just say yes to what matters and ignore the rest. Now, in order to do that, we have to have clarity. We have to have massive clarity on what really matters. And so we like to use this life as an ocean metaphor. If we're trying to sail to Portugal from Florida, the best way to get there is a straight line. But often what happens is we get blown off course. And if you get blown off course, the best thing to do is recognize when you're off course and simply get back on course. So when you have the visualization and you can see where you are and you Agile tools to reflect back, a couple of very quick stories of some people applying personal agility and the results that they're getting from around the world. One of the first people that I'd like to share is actually a business owner. And so Walter is a business owner, executive director of a company in Switzerland. And what happened was a few years ago, his company was no longer profitable and he was concerned about going bankrupt. Now, what they were able to do is they were able to make some changes, identify what really matters. People are in alignment. They know what they're coming to work for. They know what the most important projects are. And he said now he can finish his week with satisfaction and start each week with confidence. And he does this by having the simple visualization of a priorities map that outlines what really matters, limiting the work in progress and the initiatives in progress. Instead of having 40 initiatives at once, there's maybe 7 that can actually be done and be done properly. And that was able to turn the company around. Shweta from Gurgaon, India, was starting her own consulting firm. And she wanted to turn her passion for helping people into a business. And so she thought, oh, I'll start my business and everything's going to be great. I'll have all this time freedom. But what happened? She was overwhelmed. She had no time for her family. Her company was not thriving, and it was a challenge. She had more to do than ever before. And then what she said, by using the personal agility system, being able to visualize what she was doing and what was important, now she had more people interested in working with her, not just because of what she did, but because they saw that they could learn from her, because now she was living her dream and everything was in order. So having that discipline and having that visualization as well. So when we look at Larry was talking about how when he was working with companies and consulting, they were finishing maybe 24% of the projects on time. And after having an agile approach and using personal agility to manage and look at everything and visualize, they're now up to over 75% of projects completing on time. So what's the agile advantage? The agile advantage is getting to market faster, getting real feedback from customers, getting real feedback to incorporate to improve what you're doing, and being able to just have a better quality product that meets the needs in the market, and having people that are more engaged. I like to say that the sky isn't the limit, your belief system is. And if you have clarity, on what you're doing, when you can visualize what's important. In personal agility, we have the priorities map, the forces map, the breadcrumb trail, 6 questions that you ask every week on your celebrate and choose cadence. And by doing this, you are visualizing the major forces in your life or your business. You are tracking what you're doing in your priorities map. You can see if the reality matches the things that you say are important. And the breadcrumb trail tells you and if you're on the right track. So what do you do when you want to change? Well, with the SATIR change model, they say change is easy if you want to do it. I hear that from Peter Stevens a lot of times. So when you look at the SATIR change model, you have your status quo. Everybody wants that new status quo. Everybody wants that higher performance, that higher outcome with Agile. And yet some companies are not getting the results that they hoped for. So what's important is to look at, we need to do something different, but there's going to be chaos until we get there, because change can lead to some challenges. But what we can do is we can actually shorten our time in chaos. So it doesn't have to be that long time in chaos. We can bring in a coach or someone that's been there before. We can look at ways to how this change will work for us. We can look at taking care of our people at work and shifting the culture. There's things that we can do to adapt to change more. So as we talk about the Agile Advantage today, I just want to leave you with this thought. What can you do that would be the simplest thing that could possibly work? What could you do that would help you to get something to market faster? to go back to the basics, to think about how can I be more agile and how can I apply agile as an individual to be the change that I want to see in my organization. As a leader, change starts with us. So it's an absolute honor to speak with you today about the Agile Advantage, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that come up, and I'll be around later today for our fireside chat discussions as well. So we'll give a moment for the conference coordinators to share any questions that may have come up. All right, here we go. There are new ways to interact among different business areas with Agile, forming small groups. What is the best way to form the different teams? So this is something that we've seen done in different ways. It's very important to look at how can you get Agile to be a well-known concept around your entire organization. A lot of times we'll see certain departments using Agile when other departments are not. Have your teams that are organized around what's the project outcomes. So each team would have their product backlog, and they'll all be working toward that initiative. And then at the portfolio level, we can look at how that rolls up to getting the real business results. One of the things we've been doing lately is actually offering an Agile analysis and Agile accountability training courses that help to show from a program management level, how do we actually help create alignment? That's another thing where personal agility comes into play, looking at what really matters in your organization. What are those top working on them? Sometimes we've seen it work really well to have Agile community of practice throughout the organization. So you might have Agile teams in different departments or different verticals, and you would have someone from each of those different teams coming together as a community of practice to share the best practices on what's working and what are the challenges. A lot of times, Agile teams may have the same challenges across different teams in your company. So can we escalate that as an organizational impediment and make things smoother all throughout? One of the best things that I've heard when they're iterating jets with Scrum, Joe Justice, a very well-known Agilist that has broken 4 world records building cars with Scrum. He was speaking at a conference in Shanghai in China a couple of years back, about 3 years ago. And I saw him talking about how they iterate jets in Scrum. And he said they have the Scrum of Scrums. So each day, the team will have their daily Scrum where they check in and they say what's working, what's not working, what's in our way. And then they'll have a representative from each team come together, and they'll each say what is working with our team, what's not working with our team, and what is in our way. And then a representative from each of those groups that comes together. From the groups of teams, what's working, what's not working, what's in our way. And within an hour, these are 15-minute daily stand-ups, the biggest roadblocks from everybody in the organization. And their number one goal is to follow up on removing those roadblocks. So the teams will often be formed the way that you form teams now. You've got the scope of work, you've got the department, you've got this outcome that you're trying to deliver, these deliverables. So you'll form your teams as however it makes sense. Now, whichever way that you're working, if you're using a traditional approach versus Agile, when you're using Agile, it's even more important to have fully dedicated team members as much as possible. Because if we have people spread across multiple projects, that's going to be challenging for us to have fast throughput, right? So we want to try to have dedicated team members, have people by departments, and we also want people to roll up so that we can understand at a higher level in the organization what's working and what are the challenges. I see another question here. There are no quick launches without bugs or risks. There are some companies that are adverse to risk. Yes, that's a really great point. And this is where we have a trade-off that comes in. So the question is, do you want to hold on to something too long because we might have bugs or risk? Or do we take the chance because, yeah, we might have a few bugs, but we're actually going to get something to market faster. So we're going to increase the speed to market. We can go back and fix those bugs in the next iteration. And now we're playing a little bit, we're doing the dance of getting to market faster while still balancing quality. Now, because we're using an iterative approach, it's possible to simply fix those bugs in the next iteration. And so there's a little bit of a give and take. But here's the thing. Do you want to wait till like 8 months later to launch? And there's almost always still bugs anyway, even when you launch using a traditional project management approach. So let's launch sooner, find the bugs quickly, fix them, and then add more features and release those in addition, and then release another release after that. So there's often always going to be bugs, and we don't want to let that stop us from getting to market faster. Though we do need to find the balance between speed and quality. All right, another question here. How do you compare a marketing campaign to IT projects? So similarly to how you would plan out a project for software development, you're going to plan out a marketing campaign as a project, right? So when you're looking at, all right, here's the scope of work, here's what we're going to do. Agile's it's like a methodology, right? And you have Scrum as a framework. We are applying these frameworks and methodologies. It fits regardless of the work. So even Joe Justice is building cars and breaking world records using Scrum. They get over 100 miles per gallon, reach road legal safety specs, and they have the lightest chassis to reach a 5-star crash rating equivalency. And they can build a car to road legal safety specs in less than a week, and they've done it in as little as a day. So when you look at that, like, how do we compare manufacturing to marketing to IT, right? Like, the approaches just work because it's the methodology, it's the approach to how you're working. And so with the marketing campaigns, what we want to do is, if we have features that we're releasing to market, instead of just releasing them faster, we want to keep up with marketing, right? We want to be in that stride as well. So a marketing campaign, we're going to use an iterative approach in the same way. To use the Agile marketing framework and the discovery and the delivery, that's going to walk you through step by step exactly how to do that. So what we're doing is we're using proven systems, right? That's why these are frameworks, these are methodologies, they're systematized, right? So we know that these are proven methods. There's a question here. Is there any relationship between the age and the habits to adopt the change to Agile process? How can we facilitate the culture change? So when we look at the culture change, I've learned a lot about this working with Michael Sahota, who's a certified enterprise coach, and he leads a lot of our Agile leadership training classes that we do. And he talks about when you look at a leader, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first in order to help others. If you've flown on a plane, an airplane, they always say that before you take off, every single time. So when we look at change, people often resist it because it's uncomfortable and it's unknown. But we want to change the culture. One of the approaches is to have a culture bubble, create a culture bubble within your sphere of influence. As a leader, can you be the change that you want to see? This is why personal agility is so incredibly powerful. Because if you are applying Agile as a leader, yourself in your life, as a holistic view of everything in your life, and you then go into work, you're already thinking in more of an Agile way. If you then start leading by example, and you truly understand how Agile works and the mindset, that can start to trickle down. Now imagine if your people are coming into work and they're healthier, they're happier, because they're using Agile in their lives. The results that we're seeing are amazing when people apply Agile in their life to do more of what matters. So now you have people showing up fully, they're engaged, their lives are better. You've got people showing up as a whole person. And now they're more engaged in your work at your organization. Now they understand the Agile mindset as well because they live it on a daily basis. How do you shift the culture? Well, as a leader, you set the example and you give your people access to the resources that they need to be most effective. We want higher performing teams. What if we had higher performing individuals? Because it's the people on the teams that create the output. So as you think about the Agile Advantage, you can start as simple as we did with the writing on coffee example. You can start by looking at what's the simplest thing that could possibly work, what's one thing that I could do that could be valuable, that I could release to market faster. And then as you apply these proven systems in every different way, you can get that benefit and you can have that Agile advantage to get the edge in your company and in your industry. Thank you everyone for all the great questions. I'll be here if there's any additional questions that come up. And then we also have our fireside chats later today, where we'll be talking through a lot more about these concepts and applying Agile and the challenges that you may be running into and what types of things to do about that. So give another moment to see if any new questions pop up. And if not, then we will see you at the fireside chats. As we wait for any additional questions, one thing that I do want to say is I want to encourage you to look at a couple of things in the way that you work and even in the way that you live. So the first thing I'd like to leave you with here is, can you look at making the work more visible? Especially if you feel like you have a lot on your plate. The more you can make it visible, well, hey, that's the reality of how much you have on your plate. And can you focus on roadblock removal? Where are you getting stuck? Where are your teams getting stuck? And if you focus on making things visible and removing the roadblocks, that's going to serve you very well. And that's going to be a first step to increasing the agility in how you work.